Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this week's podcast. I've got a great person on, Jack Levine, who has just burned it up in the aviation market. He is an aviation sales broker for private jets, but he started off much like everybody else. He wanted to become an airline pilot. So he's got a lot of tips on how to pick flight schools, what he did in order to become successful in the flying realm, and then how he transitioned to becoming an aircraft broker, and a very successful one at the ripe old age of 18. So he is much like everybody else on the come up right now, young, full of motivation, and that's really helped him out in becoming successful. So without further ado, let's listen to what Jack has to say.
Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it that I'm never going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up.
I am here with somebody that I really wanted to highlight. Jack Levine. I've known him for 2 years, back when he was 16 years old, working here at Sierra Charlie. I noticed his work ethic, his drive. He was going to school, getting his private pilot license, and just in the grind and in the hustle. And that's one thing I really wanted to highlight today with those on the come up. If you got grind, you got hustle, you'll end up like him, selling private jets at the age of 18. Barely.
Yes, 18. Sir. Thank you for having me, Ernie.
Thanks for coming on. And I'm really excited to have you on because you have you started off in a little bit of a traditional airline pilot career path.
Yeah.
And it kind of took a turn. And, we really want to talk about that. I guess just to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you kind of came up and what your interest in aviation was.
Yeah. So I kind of started like everyone else, wanted to become that airline pilot when they grew up. Little me, as far as I can remember, probably 6 years old. Southwest flights, always excited. I could always wake up for those, of course. Go out to the airport. I always just love watching the airplanes and being around aviation. So I'm like, yeah, I want to be an airline pilot. So, here I am, little me, enthused in aviation, doing that. And I actually started flying when I was 12.
Wow.
Here at Sierra Charlie.
Now, did you have anybody in your family that flew or
no.
a private pilot license or anything like
no
that?
one in my family
No
flew.
one in your family?
No one.
Where do you think that catalyst was to in aviation? How did that come about?
It's a great question. I have no idea where it came from, but it started somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So on the come up, you love aviation. How did you get connected, I guess, how did you learn about it, number one? Because I feel like if you don't have family members in there, you kind of got to be self-driven to find out more about aviation and how this whole thing works, what options are available. How did you do that?
YouTube, to be quite
that
honest.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's dangerous. You can fall into a hole there. So, it was like you'd go on YouTube, look up some videos, and, here'd be an airline pilot talking about how to be an airline pilot. Or, different, simulator videos of, hey, here's a 737 and, doing flights in it. That's kind of how I learned from a young age of, what aviation had to offer, what it's about.
Mm-hmm. What age was that?
Oh, that was before probably 8 or 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that young.
So did you get in the whole flight sim thing?
Yeah, when I was younger, I did that. And that was kind of like continued motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And then really when I was 12 and took that, first flight, it was like that set it.
Nice.
That ingrained it in me.
That discovery flight.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's the same, kind of concept with me, except I had a father that was in aviation. But my first kind of, experiment in aviation was on a simulator. And back then they weren't very good like they are today. So, if you're out looking to kind of test the waters in aviation, a flight simulator is absolutely amazing nowadays. So, all right. So you flight simming, you convince mom and dad, hey, I want to go get my private pilot license.
Yes.
How did you choose a school? What was your decision process in choosing a school to go to?
Yeah. So a lot of it was kind of where can I be in 5 years from now? when you go look at a flight school is kind of a big thing of the airplanes and, the instructors, that's all a big thing, but also the opportunities that a flight school has to offer. So, looking at different flight schools, I went to Sierra Charlie, and I mean, right then and there, I met with Scott there, made me feel right at home. The airplanes were brand new at the time. Low time, knowing now, I'm like, yeah, low time, that's awesome.
Which is unusual in the flight school business.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So I'm like, these airplanes are great. I got along with him great. So I'm like, what, I think this is a good fit for me.
And by the way, we are not sponsored by Sierra Charlie Aviation.
No, definitely not.
But we do love them.
We do.
And we will accept a sponsorship, Scott, if you're watching.
Yeah, so that kind of set it there of like, hey, this is kind of where I want to be, and they kind of shaped it to be an airline pilot. It was kind of that direct course, and the new technology and the new airplanes that they were flying. It was going to carry and transition right over to what I wanted to do.
Okay, so they had, I guess back then they were starting the airline training program going, right? The aviator program. Were you in the aviator program, or was that kind of before your time, or?
That was after my time.
After your time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was there when it was just pay as you go kind of program.
Okay, gotcha. So you end up getting your private license, and how did the connection go to working there?
Yeah. So I was flying, and I'm like, well, I'd love to work in the industry. I kind of want to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to get in touch with the right people. Luke, as you know, kind of got
Never
me.
heard of him.
Yeah, me neither. I heard he's around here somewhere. He was that kind of connection to get me in, and I started there washing airplanes. Okay. So after school, I'd go there, wash airplanes, and do it again the next day.
So guys, I just want to highlight the hustle, right? If you're on the come up, if you got hustle, man, you are going to make it. So you started washing airplanes while you're getting your license, while going to school.
Yes.
So all the free time, the trifecta. There's no video game playing here. There's no going out with your friends. There's, maybe a little bit, but you were dedicated. You were motivated to get this thing done.
Yeah, it was something that if I always thought about it. If I don't do something now, where am I going to be in 2 years? Because I don't want to be in the bell curve. I want to be ahead of the bell curve. I always wanted to be ahead.
Smart. Yeah.
I don't know. It's that old soul in me that everyone tells me. You always want to be ahead. So I'm like, yeah, I want to get my foot in the door. I want to get my private. I want to move right on and, get things, boom, 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 boom at, the earliest I can do them.
So obviously washing airplanes was the initial job. It was your entry-level job of getting into the industry. So tell me about the progression that you had after getting your foot in, getting that opportunity. It's washing airplanes.
Yeah.
It's hey, you're around airplanes, which I remember bringing the Cirrus in. I would see you out there wiping down airplanes and washing airplanes. So tell me that transition from doing that into kind of how you moved up in the company.
Yeah, so was washing airplanes for 3 months, and I'll be honest. Then I wasn't a big fan of it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So I was like, what? I want this driving factor. I want to keep progressing. I kind of want to be in an administrative role. Well, not at the time. I didn't say I want to be an administrator at this company, but I was like, what? I want to move up and progress.
Just want to do something different.
Exactly. Change a pace, kind of see all sides of it.
Right.
So, a dispatch position for the school opened up on the weekends, so Saturdays. So I transitioned from the weekday I would wash airplanes, and now Saturday I would work the front desk. So I'd be answering the phone, I'd be dispatching flights, I'd be doing all that on Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So that was kind of the transition, the stepping stone into, okay, dispatch roles. So now
you're learning all about, because when you're a dispatcher, you're learning about maintenance, you're learning about the ops side, you're learning about the back end, bookkeeping side.
Absolutely.
So you're starting to get this whole, very good picture of how this flight school works.
Big operations picture.
Big operation.
Yeah.
Big operation. Okay, so from there, you started dabbling in a little bit of helping Luke out with airplane sales.
Yeah, so from that dispatch role, I got moved into the sales role at Sierra Charlie. So now I was the lead contact for everyone that was inquiring about the flight school or coming in for a tour. So, I mean, I was student services, you know. Someone inquires, they want to come to the flight school, I tour them, I sign them up and, you know, get them in the aviator program or get them flying, get them, you know, on their way to their private pilot license. So that's kind of where that, you know, the sales side kind of comes in.
I was going to say, you know, you're not necessarily selling airplanes at that time, but you're developing the sales side of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, learning how to talk to people, learning how to interact with people. So how did that whole thing tie into, you know, now you flip the script, you're going into more of the aircraft sales role. You know, for those that are thinking about doing this kind of stuff, you know, they're like, oh, well, I just want to jump straight into sales. Like, what advice would you have? You can't jump straight into sales if you have no sales experience, right?
No, definitely not. It's the thing with, you know, if you're jumping into aircraft sales, it's a big client relationship, but it's also a big aviation and, you know, inner industry relationship at the end of the day. You know, you can be able to talk with the C-suite executives. You also need to be able to talk with pilots. You also need to be able to talk with, you know, the average business owner, but also people in the industry, you know, other, you know, aircraft salespeople, other brokers, you know, researchers, you know, be able to talk with all of them, get the information you need, develop it in your head to be able to go to your client and talk about it. And that's kind of where that sales skill comes in at Sierra Charlie. You know, I had the information and I could be able to, you know, blab it out and throw it at y'all at once, but you probably wouldn't get it. So it was, you know, developing it in my head to work it into your situation. And that's where those, you know, soft sales skills come in and which later carried over into the aircraft sales thing.
So how long did you do it for Sierra Charlie before you got that next opportunity?
Ooh, I'd say I was in the sales role for 6 months.
6 months? Which is
6 to 8 months.
Which is not a long time.
No.
So, you know, the one thing in the sales industry, you know, when I was doing sales was it is on-the-job training. You're basically kind of attached to someone who's been doing it a while, and you learn from them, you know, closing deals and learning out how deals close, not only just the structure of a deal, but like you said, those soft skills of learning how to sell and stuff like that. So you did it for 6 months. Another opportunity came knocking.
Yes.
And you jumped at it. And this was more kind of focused in more of like the business aviation world as far as aircraft sales.
Yeah.
Number one, I know everybody's probably wondering, how did you get that opportunity? And then number two, how can others out there try to grab that opportunity, you know, and or make those opportunities?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was actually just connections. You know, they always say you can have the skills for an interview, but if you don't have connections, you're not going to get the interview. So the biggest thing was a connection that I had basically all of my life. You know, close family friend was in touch with my now boss at this current company. So he kind of did the introduction. You know, I'd met him previously, but it wasn't anything formal or anything like that. Then he redid the introduction for me, and to get that, you know, that foot in the door. And that's when I was kind of, you know, offered, you know, I was told about the position, and I'm like, yeah, I'd be interested. Let's continue the conversation. And that's sort of what led into getting this. So, you know, the biggest thing was, you know, that connection to get me to this point.
The relationships that you've built.
Correct.
And then not only that, but having an opportunity with family.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, just to highlight that too, not everybody gets that opportunity, but even though you had that opportunity, if you were a chucklehead, that probably wouldn't have materialized to anything, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, so just to back up a little bit, you're working Sierra Charlie, you're starting to get more in the sales road. Were you still like, hey, I'm still wanting to go be an airline pilot, or were you starting to go, I kind of like this sales thing. I want to check this out a little bit.
So before I took, you know, this new position, I was still on the I was actually on the sales side. I was like, yes, you know, full gun ho. Let's do this. You know, aircraft sales, this is great. Business administration for aviation, this is awesome. You know, every day's different. I transitioned over into the aircraft sales world. You know, basically that's all I do now is aircraft sales, and I fully transitioned into that. And I'm like, maybe I do miss flying a little bit. You know, maybe it's something I still want to look at.
But you still have that option down the road.
I do still have that option down the road.
So,
But that was when I first started into this position.
Mhm.
You know, now almost, 6 months in, more than that now, you know, I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
really?
Yeah.
So are you putting it just in the back burner maybe and explore it later, or you're just, I'm going to run this out until I'm tired of it or want to do something else?
I'm gonna keep running with it. You know, every day I walk into the office, it's gonna be something new. You know, every conversation, something different. Every client I talk to, they all have their unique story, and that's something I love about it. You know, you're in the airline world. You can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of show up to the airplane, you work your 2-3 flights a day, and you go to the hotel, and you do it all over again the next day.
It is a little different because not one flight is the same.
No, not one
That's
flight's
true.
the same.
But you are doing the same kind of route. And
It's
all
the
that.
same routine.
Right.
And
It's very standardized.
Yeah.
Right. And it has to be for safety factor, right?
Yes.
So I get that, what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but for me, it's like I need something. Going back when I was doing airplane washing, I was so driven to do something different. So driven to see something else. And now in the aircraft sales world, it's like one deal can be one way, and another deal can be a completely different way. So it's always seeing something interesting, which keeps my interest level peaked, I should say.
All right. So you've transitioned now. Hey, I'm all in on this aircraft sales thing. You get this new opportunity, and they don't hire you in straight into, all right, here's the client, start closing deals.
No.
What is the progression of someone getting into aircraft sales as they move themselves? Because there's a hierarchy in aircraft sales as well.
Oh, most definitely. So, when I started, you're an aircraft researcher when you start, and I think that's the best way. I thought I knew airplanes going into this. You don't know airplanes until you need to be able to talk to them. Talk about them.
So, like you said, aircraft researcher. Like, explain that to like someone that's just getting into this industry. What do they do?
Yeah, so basically the aircraft researcher is responsible for scanning all the markets. If we have a client for a CJ3 Plus, we're responsible for looking at what's out there for a CJ3 Plus, scouring the market, seeing what's out there, calling all of them, getting the story to it, getting all of our facts straight on the airplane so we can go to the client, present them all, and if they have questions about a specific one, we're able to answer those right away. It's not, hey, let me check for you.
Yeah.
So we're able to fully tell the story of the airplane like that.
And is it one thing where say the CJ market,
Sure.
you become an expert in a certain segment, or do you need to have kind of this broad knowledge of most of the airplanes?
So it really depends on the company. Some of the large brokerage firms, they have a large team of researchers. So each researcher is kind of responsible for their own segments. So citation market, Embraer market. For me, I'm kind of as is, as needed, kind of. So I'm doing as small as Cirruses to as big as Globals.
Wow.
And anything in between.
That's quite the range.
Yes.
All right. So you get in, you're now researching all these airplanes. We're both talking, off market and on market. So those that are listed, those that aren't listed. So you got to make some cold calls to people that may not, you're almost like a telemarketer. Basically,
Yeah,
right?
I'm like the door-to-door salesman, but I'm on the phone.
You're on the phone. So you have to be able to be resilient enough to hear a lot of no's, right? Because
Yeah.
no one likes hearing from a telemarketer.
No.
How did you develop that soft skill?
Yeah, so when times are bad in the industry and you can't find an airplane, I mean, like you said, you got to kind of cold call on these different airplanes. And when it's a highly sought after airplane, I mean, these people want to hold out. They want to hold their asset, hold that value. So, it's kind of taking the no is kind of like encouragement to keep working. Whether it's not them, it could be the next person you work with. But also, the people that say no, it's typically not a no, just no period. It's no because or no, and they give some sort of explanation or some sort of backbone. So, taking that information and using your soft man, I can't even speak now. Soft sales skills. It's a tongue twister there. To develop it into something that you can use for the next person.
Right.
So, this person doesn't want to sell their airplane right now because, well, they don't want to pay capital gain tax. Well, the next person you talk to might say the same thing, but hey, the way that you can avoid that is you sell your airplane, but before year end we get you into something else that has the same value, if not more.
Yeah, we have a thing at MJets. We always say we have to find a way to yes, right?
Yeah,
Because there is always a way to yes. It may not be be doable at that time, but maybe in 2, 3, 4, 8 months down the road there might be a solution. So that's true.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now you're researching airplanes. What is kind of the progression from there? Obviously, you're working with someone that's actually doing a lot of the closings and putting the deals together. So is it kind of like on-the-job training where you're shadowing that person?
Yeah. So since you can't really simulate, escrow, we wish we could.
Yeah.
It would be great. They can throw something at you. But yeah, you send the market, and you sort of just shadow the broker on how they're interacting with the client and how that progression sort of goes.
Okay.
And like you said, a lot of it could be no, let's hold out. And with that, you kind of just have to you roll with the waves.
Yeah. You gotta go with what the principal wants, right?
Yeah. You can't force a yes, but you can always get a yes.
Right.
At some point. And you can always turn what they want into a yes.
Sorry, good.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, so you've done, how long were you doing research for? About how many months?
So still doing it.
Still doing
So since I started, so still in that role.
Okay.
But in between there, that's kind of like the main thing is the research, just because it's such a big backbone for everything.
Well, and it makes you a better salesman if you know what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. If you were to drop me on a spotlight and say, hey, tell me about all the inspections on CJ3, I'd probably freeze.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you move through this role, they finally said, okay, Jack, we're going to give you a client to take care of. How long was that? And then what was that experience like? Obviously they're kind of holding your hand on the first one just to make sure that the clients, you got all the support you need.
Right.
But describe that kind of process to you.
Yeah. So it was kind of 4 months in is kind of when they kind of sent me my first one. It was a Cirrus deal. And I'm like, okay.
I like Cirrus.
After selling them, I like them even more.
Oh, yeah?
They're
good
great
airplane.
They're good airplanes. Call me if you need a Cirrus. No, but they're really good airplanes. So, it was kind of when I got the client, it was unsure of where we want to be. What airplane do we want? And it was nice having that support network, from everyone else on the team of, hey, let's talk about it, or different things so I can pass ideas off. But, I talked with the client and kind of got their story and what they're looking for. And, at that point I was like, yeah, I think a Cirrus would fit your mission best. And I think that could be something you want to look at. And
that was kind of something that you learned too, like on the sales process. One of the biggest things that you do is find out what the client actually needs. If he's flying, his family from here to Orange County, they don't need a global, right?
No,
so
definitely not.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you want to just, that's kind of one of the reasons why you want a aircraft broker or a buyer's agent to help you navigate through that process. Because there's a lot more that goes along with it. Tax implications, where are you going to take delivery, all these things.
Yeah, and it's all connections too. I mean, for the tax stuff, you need an aviation CPA, someone that knows the tax laws, aviation laws in the state, but also, whatever state you're going to be in. You need service centers. Who are you going to call for, your pre-purchase inspection, or who are you going to call when something goes wrong? You gotta have these connections and this close kind of knit network.
There's that thing again, relationships, right? So building relationships as you go on.
Yeah.
Even just being an airline pilot, or if you decide to do something else, I mean, having those relationships is huge, and knowing who to trust. That's kind of the one thing. Aviation kind of gets a little bad rap of, there's a lot of shysters that you hear, the folklore and all this stuff. Well, there are. but
Yeah.
it's no different than any other industry. You just have to know who to trust, and that's where that relationship building does come in. So cool, man. So you're 18.
Yeah.
You've got your first client. Any pushback on that from like your clients going, hey, you're kind of young. How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so it's always the question of, well, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, I'm completely upfront and transparent about it. And I think that just builds the trust level. If I
100%.
try to deceive them and say I've been doing this years, they're not going to believe that.
Right.
And they're going to be like, okay, well, what else are you lying
Right.
about? So I think that trust is also another sales skill that you need, is building trust with your client, and being totally upfront with them. It might not be something they want to hear, but if you're upfront with them, the more comfortable they'll feel with you.
Correct.
So, first client, I really didn't get much pushback at all.
Yeah.
And they were cool with it, and they every single time, oh, thank you so much for your help, And I really tried to streamline it as much as possible and get everything through, and present the information to them as factually as possible, with no deceive, nothing like that. It's, here's the information, I'll interpret it for you, and then just let me know kind of where you want to go.
You're more of an educator at this point. So did this client have any aviation experience at all?
It was first airplane. So
First airplane.
Client had no aviation experience. His two kids were actually, they're both CFIIs. One of them was at UND.
Oh, wow.
One of them was at UND.
UND.
Yeah. And going back to UND.
Yeah.
Up in
Nice.
Grand Forks. So, but other than that, it was kind of educating them on, these are the things we want to look for, when we're going through logbooks. We're not looking for the little things that, every airplane's going to have. We're kind of looking for the big things, the things that are going to jump out at us.
Or the missing things.
Or the missing things.
Hey, we got new paint and interior in here. Oh, okay. Why? That's a Florida airplane.
We got a new wing last year.
Right. All right, cool. So no issue going through, and obviously you're going to get some, but I think what you say is correct. Is these people who are going to dump millions of dollars on an airplane, they're going to want someone who they can trust implicitly, right?
Absolutely.
So you build in that trust right away. And then also, it's not just you selling the airplane. You have an entire team behind you. So I think that's one thing that, especially in our industry, we talk about relationships and building that team. You may not know the answer to something, but there's someone in your team that is probably the expert in that. So that's probably a good way for you to learn as well.
Yeah. No, it's definitely having the team and the backbone there is definitely a big thing. And without them, I wouldn't be as far as I am. They're kind of the best thing I have, supporting my back.
There he goes. Teamwork again.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Let's talk about what your favorite airplane is right now. Like not just to fly, but maybe hashtag goals like that you would like to own in the future.
Ooh, own in the future. Well, obviously, I want the G800. The new Gulfstream G800.
Yeah, right.
Not even qualified to land here.
Yeah.
No, favorite airplane right now, I'd say, honestly, a 3+, CJ 3+.
Oh, those are awesome.
Yeah. The G3000 in there is, you can't compare.
No.
It's a lightning fast system, and you can either do 6 passengers, 7 or 8. It's a very versatile airplane. So I'd say for that, when it comes to light jets in that category, 3+ is kind of my go-to soft spot.
What if you are, again, brand new to the industry, you've never owned an airplane, before purchasing an airplane, would you suggest to these potential clients who haven't done it yet to go charter a private jet?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially, we can kind of show you airplanes, and that can kind of give you an idea of what the cabin feels like. You don't really know until you fly in it. You might think the airplane's too loud, or when you're in flight, you might think it's kind of uncomfortable for more than, an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Most private jets, their stage length is about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So if you charter a trip, 2 hours, or in that range, you'll have a good idea of kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. typical charters, 2 hours, 2 people, right?
2 hours, 2 people is what we see a lot. When you own an airplane, more commonly you're taking 4.
Yeah. So, kind of normal in the industry. A new owner, I equate it to like a new boat owner, right? Like the new owner, as soon as you get your airplane, you're going to fly it probably about 50 to 80% more than you think you are.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that's why it's probably important to charter first. And honestly, if you haven't chartered an airplane, you probably don't want to just jump right into buying an airplane right away, because it is a massive cost, not just in the acquisition, but the variable cost and your fixed costs.
Right.
The fixed costs, would you say about $500,000 for a light jet before the wheel is even turning?
Well, some numbers I saw last night actually for a straight CJ3, your fixed are, pretty upwards of 150 to 200. Your fixed costs are really, it's kind of a shock a little bit, and you're all in flying 250 hours, for an airplane, is upwards of 900 to $1 million.
So if you take that, and this is what, we do, right? We'll sit down with a client, we'll go over the fixed costs, we'll see how much they want to fly per year, and then that's kind of how you get, hey, this is how much it's going to cost you per hour, because a lot of people want to see per hour because they go to a charter and they go, well, this airplane's $3,000 or $35,000 or $4,000 an hour. Why is my cost $8,000 an hour?
Right.
It's because you bought the airplane.
Yeah,
right?
you bought the airplane. So we're taking your fixed cost, dividing it by your hours.
Right.
And if you take a note on the airplane, we'll include that into your kind of variable costs there.
Correct. So what do you think the best airplane is for, say, someone who wants a light jet? Because some people don't want to fly a turboprop or a prop. They're want a light jet.
They're kind of loud.
They are loud. What do you think the best airplane for someone, the normal client, I would say, that flies no more than 2? Like, we're here in Scottsdale, flying to Vegas, flying to Orange County, flying to the Bay Area.
Yeah, so I guess those kind of trips. It really depends how many people you're bringing, how much baggage you're bringing, because something a lot of people forget about is these private jets. You got some legroom, but you don't have some baggage.
Correct. Yeah.
The
It's not like an airliner where you can
No.
just bring like 2 gigantic bags.
No, your first 2 check bags might be free, but it might not fit.
They might not fit. Correct.
For something like that, I like Phenom 300s. It can kind of do your 4 passengers, bring your bags, and do those trips. It can do a little bit more than that too. But your typical CJ line of family, it can do that as well.
What do you think
Just avoid the Phenom 100.
I agree. What do you think the biggest limb fact is from what you're seeing when people go out and buy an airplane? What is some of the things that they may not be thinking of that they probably should, which is a big deal?
Well, one, we talked about baggage space.
Correct.
Seeing how much bags you can actually bring on board the airplane. A lot of people are also bringing golf clubs, because they're going golfing, or in the wintertime, we're seeing a lot of skis, going up to the ski country.
Or they're moving a lot of their stuff to their winter home up in Aspen or something.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's one of the big things, I'd say to think about. But also, like you said, people are flying, a lot more than they expect when they own the airplane. Just because when you own the airplane, it's much easier to say, hey, let's do that trip.
Right.
Than if you don't, you got to call a charter company, or you got to book an airline ticket, and you have to go through all these hoops. Well, when you own the airplane, it's kind of simple. You make one phone call to your manager, and the next thing you know, your airplane's ready for you.
Right. One of the things I think, just me being on the pilot hiring side of the house at the airlines, I think, and then operating MJets, is pilots. So finding pilots have been kind of a struggle lately.
It's been easy for you guys, pretty difficult for us on our side.
Yeah, no, that's true. But that's kind of one of the reasons I kind of push our clients to a CJ fleet, because the 525 type is good for a CJ all the way up to a CJ4. So, and you're covered if that client wants to go from a CJ1 entry level, call it, or a
Right.
CJ entry level jet, and they're like, oh yeah, this is working out great. Let's move up to a CJ3 plus.
Right.
A lot more capability in there. Well, guess what? That same pilot is qualified to fly that CJ3 as he was, with some differences training.
Right, differences training. But you know what I've seen more commonly too is the insurance requirement. Some of these insurance companies are requiring that your pilot is actually typed specifically. So it's a 525 type specific in a CJ4 sim or a CJ3 plus sim.
A sim, correct.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, you know, you have a 525 pilot that flies CJ3 pluses and whatnot. They can't fly, you know, your 525 CJ4 until they go to the sim again and
Go to the sim and get it.
do the direct
Yeah.
CJ4 training.
Yeah, you know, insurance, and that's probably another thing that we should talk about. Even as a private pilot, GA pilot, insurance is becoming kind of ridiculous lately.
Yeah, it's definitely creeping up, price wise, you know, premium wise, and
I mean, year over year, it's just been continually going up.
yeah, and you know, not only the price climbing, but also the requirements, you know, the PIC requirements for these airplanes.
Right. What is okay? Let's say GA pilot wants to get into a Cirrus. What have you seen as far as, you know, requirements? Because we get a lot of private pilots that are like, "Hey, I've just got my private pilot license and I want to go buy a brand new Cirrus." Well, you certainly can, but those premiums are going to be pretty bad until you start getting 25, 30 hours of time and type.
Yeah, so we do our own in-house insurance at my company. So we have an insurance consultant who, you know, kind of takes that helm on that. You know, he knows the places to go. So we're very lucky to have him. You know, I've seen on Cirruses, depending on, you know, I've done insurance quotes on a Cirrus for people with 0 hours in type. You know, they're CFIIs and whatnot, and they have, you know, 500 hours and whatnot. And their insurance requirement was to do a biannual in the airplane.
A biannual in the airplane.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So, you know, just a flight review and make and model in the past 12 months, and they were good to go. And that's for being named on the insurance.
Yeah.
You know, now you're talking open pilot policy, you're talking 750 hours total time, 50
25.
in the make and model.
50. Yeah. So we just got ours back 25. And just so you guys know, a insurance quote for us was right around $20,000. So, and that's with a private pilot, no instrument rating. You know, that's probably where you're going to be at if you are in that category. So, you know, again, it's not cheap.
No, especially, I mean, 20,000 premium for a Cirrus. I mean, you start creeping up into the jet world.
Oh yeah.
And your owner operator, you know, single pilot owner operator.
Do you think that that's going to go away?
You know, I'm leaning towards it. I don't think the FAA will take it away. You know, legally you can do anything.
Right.
And you don't need insurance on your airplane.
Correct.
We recommend it. We highly recommend it.
recommend that.
You know, but legally you can do it. The insurance requirement, you know, might be shaping that.
I think it's going to be all driven by the insurance requirement.
100%. And I think that's kind of how the industry is now. You know, your Talk 91 or 135, it's kind of, you know, what's the insurance requirement kind of deal. It's something that's not really taught to pilots too, which I wish it was a little bit more. You know, have pilots have an understanding of this, so when they go to their next job or they're a CFI, CFII, and let's say they're not named on the insurance, they meet the open pilot policy, but the flight school doesn't have flight school insurance on the airplane. You know, it's kind of like, well, what are your limitations? Can your students solo this and that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a good thing for CFIs to double check, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
you don't want to find yourself in a bind. You know, God forbid something happens and you tear up an airplane and you find out that, oh my goodness, I'm not covered.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that's definitely not a situation you want to walk into.
Right.
For sure.
All right. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, you're super young, right?
Right.
So
I was going to say,
5
Ernie,
years.
that's like nothing for me.
Tomorrow.
I know. Well, to give you an idea, I'd be 23. Hopefully I'm gone from college.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm not doing that anymore.
Where are you going to college?
I'm at Arizona State.
That's right, baby. ASU.
You know, I do this because I go there. I can't wait for it to be over.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I get it. So finished with college and, other kind of medium to intermediate goals.
I'd like to build my client base, build it out. And, in 5 years time, I think that could be doable for sure. And, start, at that point, I wouldn't have the school thing. So I'd kind of be full time there and, doing that. But I think that's kind of like, one of the bigger goals.
Kind of drive more into the business aspect of it as opposed to being a pilot.
Yeah, most definitely. Maybe by then, hopefully, I'll have an instrument rating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very good case for business aviation too. So by then, you probably have your own airplane and you can fly to meet these clients instead of taking the airlines, right?
If I could own my own airplane, that'd be way too much fun. Then I wouldn't work.
That's true. You'd be flying to all these clients all the time, which would give you more work. See.
But then I have to fly again, so.
Yeah, then you got to fly again. Yeah. All right. So what advice would you give, someone just getting into this business? They've started out flying, but they're interested more into the business aspect of it, like sales or whatever. As far as mentorship, how would you find a good mentor in, doing what you do? Yeah,
so in my position now, I'm seeing more and more mentorship opportunities pop up for, I want to say I'm past that, but I've kind of moved myself into a role where I'm happy with, but I'm seeing more and more pop up for people that are still looking to get into it, and that I think is really great. One of the biggest things to get into that mentorship, I'd say get involved. Most every single state has a NBAA regional. So here in Arizona, we have AZBAA, Business Aviation Association.
Right.
They're a great way to get involved. Not only do they have basically monthly meetings where it's all industry professionals coming in and networking together, whether it's any spectrum. You do aircraft maintenance, you have people at service centers there, you have insurance, you have pilots, you have brokers. You kind of have a wide range there. And it's a great way to go in, network with people, get involved in your community. And those people are always there to help. Most of these organizations also do scholarships.
Yeah, lots of scholarship opportunities.
Yes, lots of scholarship opportunities, especially through them. And they want to give out this money. They want to give this away. So, I'd apply and, get connected with these people. Not only can they be mentors, you can get if you want to be a pilot, you can use the scholarship towards flight training. You can use it towards school, just about anything. If you want to go to type school for something, or if you want to be a corporate flight attendant, they'll pay for your training, for that. The scholarship will do that. Wow. So, it's truly a broad aspect of kind of what you can do just by getting involved here. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I can recommend to people. Is to do that.
So just go to one of these meetings, whatever state you're in.
Yeah.
There's always an affiliate there. I know it's, from someone that's maybe a CFI or just starting out, it's a little intimidating to try to go up to this meeting, but I guarantee you will be welcomed.
Absolutely.
Out there. So yeah, that's legit.
I showed up to my first meeting not knowing a soul.
Oh, did you really?
I did. Over at Deer Valley. I kind of just walked in. I looked just like this. Just walked in and, left there and, met some people that I've been, talking to ever since.
Yeah. How has that influenced because back then you were still kind of gung-ho on being an airline pilot, right? So how did that influence your future decisions?
Well, going to these, a lot of people are, in the business aspect of aviation. Business aviation, it's more business professionals and pilots. So kind of in that mix there, seeing the stories from the business person of, hey, this is kind of what business aviation has to offer. Here's what I've done. Here's my path. It's been great to kind of see. And, I'm like, that you have a great story. And, it's like, I kind of want to make my own story. The pilots there too. I mean, these people aren't, the flight instructor that bounces to a 135 to then bounce to the airlines. They're kind of in it for a career. And, talking with them is also, a great connection as well.
And you'll learn a lot too.
Most definitely.
A lot of these there's some pretty big corporations out here that fly corporate jets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
their pilots have a wonderful quality of life.
Yeah.
I mean, they're home every night. So if you have a family, I mean, it's just, flying is a very diverse, you can find what your niche is. And a lot of them, this is a great niche to be home every night, taking your kid to soccer practice or, having date night with your wife. Because if you're an airline pilot, you're gone for, 3, 4, 5, 6 days sometimes. If you're a FedEx guy, you're probably gone for 2 weeks to a month.
Yeah. No,
But, I think we've done a bad job at highlighting the opportunities in business aviation. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities in business aviation, and it might be a career stop for a lot of people. They just didn't know about it, So, when you started, right, airline pilot.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's what you do, right? Like when I started, I was a military guy. It's military airline. That's
Right.
all I knew. I didn't realize until I started getting more into business aviation when I was in the Guard. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. This is kind of fun. It's another opportunity. So I think we just need to do a better job of kind of highlighting what business aviation has to offer for a career.
No, I think definitely, showcasing it, and we don't get a lot of the media. We don't have that kind of attention. You don't really see it on, social media either.
Right.
You might see the corporate pilot posting that they're in Bozeman or Jackson Hole, which is always something that's like, yeah, that's what this is about.
Right. Right. I have a good friend that flies for a really big corporation out on the East Coast. And we were at NetJets together. And, I obviously went to Southwest. And he got a job flying Part 91 for a really great company. And I remember I texted him one time. I'm like, hey, man, you ever want to make the jump? Like, let me know. Yeah. And he responds back with a picture on a yacht with a drink in his hand. He's like, I'm all set. So, yeah. I mean, it's and for him, he has young kids, so it was great for him.
Right.
So, it's just get out there and educate yourself. I think that's kind of the biggest thing is this aviation career field is so diverse. You could do aircraft sales, you can be a pilot, you could go to the airlines, you could be a ambulance, air ambulance pilot. That's, I thought that was such a great way to give back is, flying critically ill patients or flying somebody that needs to go to cancer treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot in this aviation space. And I'm glad we got to talk a lot about, the aircraft sales part.
Yeah.
And the fact that you took a turn where you were kind of going
quite a turn.
Yeah.
I went from a cockpit to an office.
Cockpit to an office, which most pilots don't want to do.
No.
But when you do it, I mean,
it's not bad.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, and definitely not bad, especially, you can kind of work wherever, you can be with a client in a different state looking at an airplane and, at the same time, I can be working at the same time. So, you're not falling back and you're not falling behind. So you're always on top of it, and it's really nice, to have that flexibility and that option. I don't need to be somewhere to do work.
Right.
I can kind of be wherever.
You got a laptop, you can make it happen.
Absolutely. Laptop and a cell phone. It does it.
All right. So we'll sum it up. Just quick tips on someone wanting to get in the industry, get into, just basically selling airplanes or something in the aviation industry as far as admin goes. What would be your three traits that you would recommend for someone like that?
3 traits, like personality traits for someone.
Traits.
Wow. You have to be optimistic. You kind of have to go in open-minded and, always think about, hey, it might not be, the grass might not be green right now, but it could be in the summer.
Keep fertilizing it with what, and it'll keep coming. Right?
Absolutely.
It might grow.
Yeah. You kind of have to have that in the back of your head just so you don't get down. Sometimes this industry, it comes with its highs and it comes with a lot of lows, and the lows overtake the highs most of the time.
Right.
So just keep
if you let it, right?
If you let it,
right.
So you gotta stay optimized. That hey, this it's going to be greener eventually, and there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and you kind of have to roll with the punches. I would say charismatic. Really got to connect with people.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate to have pretty good connections, and those have built. But also, meeting someone for the first time, it could be, kind of intimidating. A high industry professional, it's like shaking their hand for the first time. You don't really know what to say.
Right.
But being able to kind of have that conversation with them and just kind of, it doesn't even need to be about aviation, just kind of like, how's your family, where are you from, and kind of whatnot. Just get to know them and, build that. That way you can, keep that connection, but also keep your connection with so many other people that can really get you far. And then one more, have good work ethic. Stay hardworking, have good work ethic.
Hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to keep up in this industry. You gotta, you kind of have to be running. But it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you got to pace yourself, but continue, working hard and, trying to go for your goal. And, it might not be tomorrow that you get it, but in the long term, you'll definitely be at that goal.
Cool. All right. Then the last one, 3 things if I'm a prospective client that wants to buy a jet, what are the 3 things I should be thinking about?
3 things you should be thinking about. Like I said, baggage space.
Yeah, baggage space.
We're going back to that. You also have to think, okay, know what your mission is, kind of what airplane fits that mission, but then you kind of have to buffer that. It might not be, you might be doing Scottsdale to John Wayne all the time for work, but what happens when you want to go Scottsdale to Chicago? Your light jet, your Eclipse jet, your Vision jet, it can't be doing those missions without a fuel stop and whatnot. So, thinking about that stuff, having all that in mind, and then kind of where you want to be at. Do you want it by the end of the year? Do you want to take advantage of the tax benefit and
That's
appreciation?
a big one, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of deals going on right now, and we all joke.
As we speak.
We all joke because, the CPA goes to the principal and goes, we have a tax problem. We need to do something with this.
Yeah.
And buying an airplane is one of the solutions. But guess what? It always happens in the last quarter of the year, it seems like.
Yep.
And
because you can't use it for personal use.
You can't use it for personal use, correct.
Yeah.
So it is a mad rush. And I've known some buyer's agents that are like, I just don't do it at the end of the year. We don't take business at the end because it is a circus.
It's definitely a lot of work. It's a lot of phone calls, long nights, kind of always talking with people, seeing what people have and, what could be coming, and taking every opportunity and kind of jumping on it. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, you can show that you went somewhere with it and, really tried to take it.
All right, Jack. Always have been a big fan of you. I've watched you for the past 2 years.
I don't have a YouTube, but you do, so I've watched you.
You know what? I see you in action, and man, the hustle and drive that you have is inspiring.
Well, I appreciate it. It's a big deal.
I don't know about that, but hopefully it's a big deal to the audience because I want to inspire them to make sure that, even if you're not young, if you're on a second career, man, hustle, having a good attitude and learning as much as you can from the people around you, you are going to have a great career in aviation. It's very rewarding. Oh, yeah. It'll also, put a rear naked choke on you once in a while. And as long as you could try to get out of that, you'll survive to make the next challenge that's up because it's always challenging. But again, I am super thrilled to have you on, and I'm glad you told your story. And I'm glad that we talked about, hey, being an airline pilot, it's great, but you may take a side turn and find something else that you like, So,
even if it's not sales, there's so many things in this industry besides being a pilot. Pilot's the big one. This industry doesn't run without them, but it also doesn't run with the people in the back.
Correct. 100%. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. You got an Instagram.
I do.
What is your Instagram account?
Oh, I think it's Jack. My last name Levine. There
you go. Hit him up on Instagram. If you're looking for an airplane, he's a great resource. We're a great resource too. But obviously, a great resource, and I'm super proud of what you've done, and I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing here in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So thanks, Jack, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, brother.
Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it that I'm